Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Caroline Garnett McGraw with The Clearing, and we are a non-12-step dual diagnosis residential addiction treatment center. And that means that we work with anger every single day. We also have computer issues every single day because we're human, so I do apologize that we're a couple minutes late on this live broadcast, but thank you for joining us, and we're ready to dive in. So this video is a follow-up of last week's video, which if you tuned in, we talked about the anger, hurt, loving model. And we got so many questions after that video of, this makes so much sense to me. This is the story of my life. Now I understand why I've had all these struggles with depression and anxiety and addiction. But how do I work with my anger? Where do I even start? So that's the purpose of this video today. We're going to teach you several approaches to work with the anger that underlies mental health conditions such as depression and anxiety, and that later can lead to addiction. So we highly encourage you to go back and watch that first video on the anger, hurt, loving model. And I will post a link to that in the comments thread of this video so you can see it if you haven't seen it already. But for the purposes of this video, I will share with you some key points from that one that you need to know so you'll be caught up. So the first thing you need to know is that beneath every feeling of anger, there is a hurt that is present. Anger is a feeling that arises within us when something that we need is absent or something that we cannot tolerate is present. And I'm quoting Dr. Martha Beck there. And so when we don't have what we need, or we're in the presence of something we can't tolerate, then a part of us is hurting. By definition, we don't have what we need, we're hurting. We're longing, there's a gap there, there's hurt. And if we're in the presence of something we cannot tolerate, then we're hurt as well. So beneath every feeling of anger, there's an underlying hurt that is present. So you may be thinking, okay, well, I understand that in order to heal my anger, I need to heal the underlying hurt, right? But how do I do that? How do I heal the hurt? Well, the answer is very simple. It's not always easy, but it's pretty straightforward. And here it is. When we apply love to the parts of ourselves that hurt, then we heal. So when we apply love to the hurts that underlie the anger, that's when we're able to heal and move on from the anger. Now, of course, I can hear you all saying, Caroline, that sounds great. Just apply love to the parts of yourselves that hurt. But of course, the question is how? How do we do that? Most of us were not shown how to do this. Most of us did not learn this in our family systems or in schools, unless we were very fortunate and we were with some teachers or parents or authority figures who were very aware and very in tune. But by and large, our culture does not teach this. There's not a lot of opportunity for us to really learn how to heal that underlying hurt. But the good news is that you can always start where you are. You always can. Now is the perfect time to start. So if you're here and you're watching this video, I'm going to give you some ways that you can apply love to the parts of yourselves that hurt and thereby heal your anger. So the first thing I want to share is a strategy to burn off some of your hot anger, like when you're in that moment of upset and you just want to explode and okay, I don't want to be yelling at someone or going off at someone else. I want to learn how to manage my own anger. So this is a great way to do that. So the tool is called freeform writing. And so what you do is you go off by yourself, find some place that you won't be disturbed. For those of you who are parents, locking yourself in your car is a really good way to do this. I often talk to clients who say, I can't find time to do these exercises and I don't have the privacy. I'd say, well, great. Do you ever drop your kids off at a sporting event or something? And they say, yeah. I said, okay, great. Drop them off, go park the car somewhere and lock the doors and you've got your private time. So life hack for you who, if you're feeling like you have no privacy to do this, that's the way you can do it. So once you're alone, set a timer on your phone or on your watch for a minimum of 10 minutes, ideally around 15, but 10 is just the bare minimum for this exercise. And all you need is a pen and a piece of paper, ideally scrap paper, nothing fancy. And you set your timer for 10 minutes and you just put pen to paper and you write and you let yourself be as raw and uncensored and unpolitically correct as you want to be, no one is going to see this. No one is going to reread this, not even you. So for 10 minutes, you just let your anger flow. You get it out of your body and you get it onto that paper, and you just write and write and write all the things that you're pissed off about. I hate this and I hate that and I can't stand it and it's awful. Just say whatever you want. Curse. Again, nobody's going to see it. It's just for you. When that timer goes off, you stop, and then you take that piece of paper and you destroy it. You can shred it, or ideally, you can burn it. That is very cathartic. But of course, be safe. Dispose of it in the safest and most complete way you can. I've had participants tell me that if they are not able to shred it and they're not able to burn it, what they'll do is rip it up, and then they will put the pieces in water so that the ink runs. And so it's really, really destroyed, and it's just kind of this soggy mess. And then you throw the soggy mess in the garbage. And this is important. You want a really complete destruction of whatever you wrote, because you just want to release that anger. It's all about releasing the emotion. So that's one way to let the steam out, and to really also let yourself be honest about what you're feeling. Because something else that we talked about in our video on the anger, hurt, loving model is that when we turn our anger inward and we don't allow ourselves to express it or even to feel it fully, we just turn it inside ourselves. That is what becomes depression. Depression may seem like sadness, hopelessness, and that's very much a part of it, but it begins with the experience of turning our anger inward and refusing to feel it. So this is particularly important if you've dealt with depression, to have a time where you are letting your anger flow so that you're not just stuffing it, you're not turning it inward. So, all right, that's how we burn off hot anger. And the next thing I want to talk about is, once you've done that and you're willing to work with those unresolved issues that were contributing to your upset, what do you do? So first, I will say that all upset does point to unresolved issues. So if you're angry, if you're stressed, then you have an unresolved issue. And there's no judgment here. This is not bad. All of us have unresolved issues. It is a part of being human. So there's no need to judge yourself for this. Instead, you can just see, oh, look, I'm feeling really upset. I'm feeling really angry right now. This is my latest opportunity for growth. This is something else being revealed to me that needs to be healed. And so when you do that, when you take that opportunity, then you can take that next step forward in your own growth and development. But by contrast, if you refuse to deal with your upset and you stuff it or you pretend it's not there, then you can't evolve and grow past that stuck point. And what's going to happen is that life is going to keep throwing things at you that's going to bring back that original unresolved issue. So it's sort of like a class in college where there's a prerequisite, like you have to take Psychology 101 before you can move on to Psychology 102. You can't bypass an unresolved issue and just think, oh, I'd rather not do that one. I want to do another one. It's going to come back. It will be a prerequisite on behalf of your growth. So you might as well deal with it now. Again, now I can hear your question is, well, how do I do this, Caroline? How do I deal with it? Once I've burned off some of the hot anger, how do I deal with it? So one of the techniques we use in our program is based in rational emotive therapy. And I'll give you a quick overview, and I'll post some more links in the comments for exactly how to break this down. So the idea behind rational emotive therapy is that we all experience reality subjectively. And what that means is none of us have a purely objective view of the world, because we filter everything through the lens of our perceptions and our thoughts and our experiences and our memories. So there is no sort of template for this is exactly what happened. It's more like 10 different people witness an event and they have 10 different experiences of that event. And so the reason that's important is because when we start to work with our upset, what we need to do is look at our subjective perceptions of events in our lives. We need to look at our judgments and our limiting beliefs and our projections and all the things that we build around the events of reality. Humans love to tell stories, and we're gifted with imagination, and we love to make things mean something. So our spouse walks into the room and doesn't speak to us, and we make that mean that they're judging us. When in a more objective reality, maybe their experience is that they're just distracted. Maybe they didn't even notice that we were looking at them. And even in instances where something seems very objectively clear, that person told me they hated me. That seems pretty clear, right? But it can cause you a different degree of upset depending on what you make it mean. If you're making that mean, I'm a despicable human being and I don't deserve to live, that's pretty upsetting. But if you're making that same thing mean, that person is really in pain and they're really hurting and they're lashing out at me because they're hurting, then your level of upset is different, right? You can feel that. So rational emotive therapy helps us to identify our judgments and our limiting beliefs, because these are the things that are causing us the upset, not the external event. It's our internal reality that is causing the internal upset. So in order to do this, we begin, as we always begin, by centering ourselves in our loving hearts. And what that looks like is you pick an image or a relationship or a memory that really brings you to a place of unconditional love. Some people imagine their partners or their pets or a dear friend, something that allows you to tap into that energy of acceptance and love within yourself. And then when you're in that place, you remember, okay, what was it that triggered my feeling of upset? What happened in the real world? And then what did I think about that? So to use that example, my spouse walked through the room and I looked up at them, but they didn't look back at me. That could be one. And so you would write down, okay, what happened was my spouse walked across the room, I looked up and they didn't meet my gaze. That's the factual statement of what happened. But then you look at, okay, what were my judgments about this? So a judgment is anything that sounds like should, would, could. So for example, he should have looked at me. I should have tried harder to get his attention. He shouldn't be so cold. Or a judgment, of course, could be he is cold. I'm not worth looking at. That could be a judgment against the self. So remember, judgments can be against the other. They can be against the situation or against reality, or against yourself. So again, in that scenario, he shouldn't have done that. I don't deserve to be looked at, or it shouldn't have happened that way is a really big judgment that we tend to have against circumstances. So once you have those judgments written down and those limiting beliefs as well. So limiting beliefs are more global rules about the way the world works. So your limiting belief might be, for example, my spouse should always know what I need. So he should know. He should just know that I needed contact in that moment. And so then what you do is you walk yourself through a process of forgiveness for those judgments and for those limiting beliefs. And the script that we use in our program is, I forgive myself for judging myself as fill in the blank. And the truth is fill in the blank. And the first blank, we fill in our judgment. So for example, I forgive myself for judging myself as unworthy, for example. And the truth is, and in that second blank, you fill in what the voice of unconditional love would say. You fill in what your closest friend would say, they just love you so much and they always want the best for you. You tap into that feeling. So in this case, it might be, I forgive myself for judging myself as unworthy. And the truth is that I am loved and that I am cherished and that I am worthy. So that could be one. If that doesn't ring true for you, that's fine. I can't know what the voice of unconditional love is going to say to you. I'm just giving an example. So another one might be, and the truth is that I accept myself. That could be, you judged yourself as unworthy, but now you accept yourself. You've made a shift. And similarly, the framework for forgiving a limiting belief sounds like this. I forgive myself for accepting the limiting belief that fill in the blank. For example, spouses should always know what their spouse needs. And the truth going forward for me is, and then you fill in the blank. And it could be, for that example, something like, I can take care of my own needs, might be one example. Or my needs will always be met somehow, some way. I will always be provided for. Something along those lines. And at the end, of course, always remember to praise yourself for a job well done, because offering yourself forgiveness and forgiving these judgments and these limiting beliefs, this is really intense work on both the mental and the emotional levels. So remember to congratulate yourself for doing it at all, because it is brave and it contributes to not only your well-being, but to the well-being of the world. Because when we heal our own anger and our own hurt, that is so powerful. That affects everyone around us. It ripples outward. So just before we close, I'm going to ask if there are any questions. I know we have some people watching live, so feel free to ask any questions. I will post resource links in the comments so that you can discover these exercises and really walk through them step by step on your own. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Again, this is Caroline Garnett McGraw with The Clearing, signing off.